The next topic we wanted to talk about, we already had a conversation about it before the podcast. It is something along the lines of if there is a difference between a fear and a phobia.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of forget how the conversation started up. I think I brought it up. But
Yeah.
pretty much, I'm going to look up the definition of fear and phobia. And while I do that, do you want to just say if you think there's any differences between them?
I do think that there are differences.
But you were saying that they're very interchangeable, right?
Yeah, I would say, well, they're interchangeable in some situations. So, for example, you could say that a fear of spiders and arachnophobic are the same thing, because, a fear of spiders is kind of a way of describing what arachnophobia is.
And
but at the same time,
just for the record, it is not random that he's saying spiders, because I am terrified of spiders. Continue.
but at the same time, you could say, I'm afraid of, I don't know, I'm afraid of when my dad goes to drive down to Newfoundland. I'm afraid he'll get in a car accident. But I couldn't say that I have a phobia of that.
Alright, I have the definitions.
Okay. Alright, so
the definition of fear pretty much is just saying it's an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous. And for phobia, it's an extreme or irrational fear of an aversion to something. I am sort of making sense of that. I'm not amazing with words, but pretty much, I don't know if this still makes sense, but pretty much what I was saying about our whole discussion between fear and phobia is a sort of when I think of a fear, I think of something that hasn't really happened yet, but I'm scared of it. And I think of more of a phobia of something as, well, I also said that I think a phobia is more genetic, which I guess maybe works, but also it kind of has holes in it too. But I think of a phobia as something that's around me that I want to get away. But like you said, it's interchangeable. It's still a fear if there's something beside me. I'm still scared of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the most important thing is that for the phobia, it's said an irrational fear, which is something we talked about too, like a rational fear versus an irrational fear.
I think the word phobia is more like an explanation of fear. Like if you're consistently scared of something, like spiders or snakes or enclosed spaces or anything really, saying you have a phobia kind of explains why you're constantly you constantly have this fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
you're almost
I guess
scared.
fear is like the general word. It's sort of like in a tree of like fear. Fear's at the top, and then a phobia. Phobia is like a branch.
Yeah, branch.
So fear can be used in pretty much any situation where phobia is used, but phobia can't be used in every situation where fear is.
Mm-hmm.
I could say you have a fear of spiders, or I could say, I don't know, someone has a fear of closed spaces.
If we really get
just
into
as much as I could call them arachnophobic or claustrophobic, but I can't say I have a phobia of my dad getting in a car accident when I'm 99% of the time not scared. I'm only scared when he's on the road for 12 hours every day.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to think about how, wouldn't you kind of be fearful of your phobia? Almost like you have a phobia and you know it's a thing, so you're scared. It's like an in your head kind of thing. Like how much of that stuff do you think is just in your head?
Like phobias?
Yeah, so or just fears in general. Like you amp it up more in your head. You're scared
Honestly,
of what could happen.
90%.
Like a ton of it, right? I don't know if it's as high as 90, but
I think a good example would be just a fear of the dark.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, there is no difference in this room whether the lights are on or off.
That's a great example.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
But when the lights are off, we're both pretty on edge. Whereas when the lights are on, we're very relaxed.
Because it's the general fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah, it's sort of this actually happened to me a few days ago. It's kind of funny. So I've got this poster sitting up in my room, like that Star Trek one I have. And it slid down and made a noise. And it terrified me. I was really scared, and it took an extra half hour for me to fall asleep. But if the lights were on, I saw that happen. I would just go oh, my poster slipped.
Yeah, exactly. It's because you don't know what it is, and you don't know how you'd be able to stop it from hurting you or getting you.
Mm-hmm.
Not being able to use your senses, I think, is just scary in general.
Mm-hmm.
because it's just something you're not obviously used to, so you feel ill
Yeah.
prepared for anything that would actually cause you harm.
And like it is sort of like a biological thing. Like in the dark, it makes sense to be more on edge
Yeah.
because you need that extra level of like alertness to like your hearing and your smell to make up for the fact that you can't see.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Because fear is definitely like a blockade. I think that gets in the way with people just questioning things and thinking things through. Because a lot of the times, if you actually think about a situation that's scary, even if something bad did happen, there would still be ways to get out of it, and it's still not really that bad. But just the fear of it possibly happening is what makes you, or what could make a lot of people make poor decisions or not handle it the best. Because obviously, it's an emotion.
Yeah.
So it just gets in the way and gets you to act differently. It gets you to do things you might not want to do, but you can't really control it.